Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'm coming from my home office. Well, it's where I normally come from, but it's a sort of special day because it's remote working week. And what I wanted to do is talk to you about remote working and some of the considerations that you might want to have for your office. Now, when I first sort of thought about this episode, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to show lots of different bits of my office and I'm going to explain lots of things and everybody's going to think it's wonderful and it's great. And I sort of pulled myself aside and went, Ben, don't be an idiot. The fact that you like things in the office is exactly what you need to be demonstrating to people. You like those certain things, not that other people should have those things, because the most important person in a home office is you. So if you like it to be really untidy, I know my dad used to love having sort of 10 years worth of paperwork on the floor. If that floats your boat, you should do that in your office. For me, I like to be tidy. I try and be tidy. That would be a better explanation. And that really kind of works for me. So I try and tidy my office at the end of the day. I also sort of carefully considered my office. It's kind of long and thin. It was originally, we had a double length garage, and we converted one half of that, which is now my office. And I wanted to consider that space. Because it's long and thin, I went for a kind of a slender, very narrow but longer desk. And I put a sofa in. And the reason I did the sofa is because essentially it's great for YouTube videos. It's also great to sit down and read a book. The most important thing though is my dog Rufus, and he can sit there in the mornings and sun himself, and he thinks it's wonderful. It's the best place ever. With regard to my desk, I would love to have a big, large, wide desk, but unfortunately with the room that I have, I just can't do that. It doesn't make sense to do that, because I wanted a bit of floor space. The reason I wanted the floor space is so that I can make YouTube videos, I can make podcasts, and unfortunately, because I don't have a separate studio space, what it means is that I have to essentially have everything in one space. And therefore, it means that things have to go up and down, but I need a reasonable amount of floor space in order to sort of progress things forward. So, unfortunately, I have to have the narrow desk. But it doesn't bother me, because it kind of works. And you need to make the sort of same considerations for your space. What works in there? Try, if you can, from personal experience. I did have an office where I had lots and lots of furniture in it. It made it really hard. I was trying to use the space to be sort of a den area or a sort of man cave for me, where I'd have a big telly and I could add the sofa in there. The sofa took up half the floor space. The TVs took up sort of a quarter of the floor space, and in the other quarter I had to fit in a desk, which was quite a big desk at the time, and the space didn't really work. So think of that really, really carefully. Also consider cupboards and that kind of thing in your space, because it's nice to be able to have things and put away things. Consider as well, very recently I've been changing things around slightly, because I was putting a lot of things in cupboards and drawers that were easily accessible that I just really didn't use. So I've either moved it to another area, or I've simply just taken it out of my office, or I've taken the things I really use, like for example my podcast equipment and that kind of thing, and put it in a much more easily accessible space. And that's really important for me, because it means I kind of can really, really get things done effectively. The other thing you need to consider is things like music, lighting. So, I like to have music. I tend to have these things that I use, which are my Bose noise cancelling headphones. I have them on all the time because they just mean I don't distract myself too much with sort of other things, and also means that I tend to focus much more effectively. Also, lighting. I tend to have a number of different lights in the room. So obviously I've got lighting for YouTube, but that doesn't really count. The thing I have really got is over the head lighting, which is like 6 spotlights, really illuminates the room when I want it to be really bright. I've also got a desk lamp, which is really good, and then behind me, I'm not sure you can see it actually, but behind me there is another lamp, and I use the desk lamp and that lamp to kind of light the room sort of late at night or when it starts to get dark, so the room isn't sort of full of light but is much more subdued. And that's the way I like it. Now, I know a lot of people, when they're working, don't like that at all, and they want big, bright white lights all the time. And if that's the way you work, then that's what you should do. The other thing to consider sort of carefully is kind of where you place your monitor so that it's at the right height for you. I think a lot of people sort of forget about that, and they find that they're sort of getting sore at the end of the day. I have mine on a slightly raised platform, which I find really useful, but you need to decide what works for you. Also, if there's any sort of specialist equipment that you have, you need to decide kind of where you're going to put that, and again, what works for you. I hope that the sort of insights that I've given you give you a good idea as to the kind of things that you can do in your office. If you would like me to do a tour, or you'd like any more information, or you think I've missed anything, then please let me know. And before I go, one final thing is make the space around you really personal. I'm in a bit of a Star Wars fan, so I tend to have a couple of things from Star Wars. You can see just behind me there, Yoda, and that really works for me. But put a few personal touches in, because that really helps and makes it your kind of space. The most important thing about the space is that you can walk out of it at the end of the evening, or at the end of the day, or if you're only working a half day, whatever it is, and you can leave that space and leave your work behind and get on with your personal life. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to maximise your magnificence, and I will see you in another episode.